love to listen in the morning. Jimmy Lakey on the radio. I got my coffee and cream. Jimmy's on the air. Wake up and start your day. Now go and tell all the neighbors, yeah. Then crank up the radio. There's infotainment, brilliance to get you on your way. Wake up and start your day with Jimmy Lakey.
Well, top of the morning to you. Happy Monday, America. Good to have you here. Had a little technical glitch there on the Instagram. So a little delayed in starting because it's a long story, but I had to fix it, and I'm a fixer. We fixed it all here in the studio, and it's all set to go. Hello, Instagram. How are you doing? I hope you realize you caused a delay this morning with troublesome behavior. And I also caused a delay because there's certain buttons that I'm supposed to push and certain buttons that producer Chad is supposed to push, and I failed to push a certain button this morning, and that way we have joined. Anyway, it's Monday. It's right. It's Monday. Glad to have you here on a Monday morning. It's the Lakey Unleashed daily update, part of the Lakey Unleashed podcast. And thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate you joining me in the house of Lakey as we go through the news of the weekend. A lot of football over the weekend. I watched so much football. Not many good games. Last night was a good game with Tampa Bay and the Washington Redskins, Commanders, Redskins, whatever you call them. But I was hoping the Tampa Bay Bucks would pull that one out, but they didn't. I was hoping that they would, but they didn't. So most of the games were not even competitive. They were really, really boring. Those of us watching the Denver Broncos here in Colorado watched and said, wow, it looked great on the first drive. And after that, it looked like well, it didn't look all that great, but it's okay. I didn't expect it to look great. Josh Allen's one of my favorite quarterbacks out there. So anyway, it's NFL weekend, and I hope you enjoyed your football if you got to watch some. And please know that 1 week from today, freedom is coming. America is going to change for the better as Donald J. Trump will be inaugurated 1 week from today. As a matter of fact, 1 week from today, hopefully you and I will be together live and in person. We're going to be doing the live show right here from, not right from here, but we're going to do it at Casbar Cigar in Lafayette, Colorado, which is an enclave just outside of Boulder, between Boulder and Denver, and just down 287 from the old Fort Collins area. But we're going to be there at Casbar Cigar next Monday. This show will be live. So next Monday, you'll see a lot of cigar smoke flying around. There'll be cigars and celebration happening. But we'll do the show live, and you're welcome to join us. It's a free event. And if you want information, look up Casbar Cigar, Lafayette, Colorado, Inauguration Day. We'll start the show at 8 o'clock. The doors will open just before then. And we look forward to meeting all of you there. Thank you very much. That is 1 week from today. All right, over the weekend, let's get some news. What do you say? It's Monday, the 13th day of January, year of our Lord, 2025. I've got some news I want to go over with you. Gavin Newsom wanted to run for president. I wonder if this has caused Gavin Newsom's presidential aspirations to go up in flames, if you will. The incompetency, arrogance, the shamefulness of just how he's behaving. And I'm just watching from afar. If you're watching us from California, give us a chat. Let us know what you think about the way Gavin Newsom not just led up and handled the pre-fire mitigation and pre-fire preparation, but just his arrogance and his it's just really shameful the way he's acting out there. And he's all blaming it on disinformation. He's blaming it on, we were ready, we're prepared, nothing's to see here, there's nothing wrong here. It's everybody's disinformation. And this is the same type of behavior that they used to be able to get by with. They got by with this in COVID, when any of us would stand up and say, hey, you're wrong on this topic. Here's what the doctor says. No, that's disinformation. And that's what they did. They blamed it disinformation. They got us censored. And Gavin Newsom, his arrogant little greasy hair self, is not having any opportunity to push back. He's wanting to pull the COVID playbook in which they say that's disinformation. But everybody knows that it is true. They were not prepared for this that happened there in the beautiful state of California. They were not prepared. It is a fact that Gavin Newsom was not prepared with that he did divert water because he was afraid of the smelt fish being harmed. That is a fact. There are so many things that he says are disinformation, and he's blatantly lies. It's like if you saw the memes of him walking, or the videos of him walking around talking to the lady. He was pretending to be on the phone with Joe Biden. I'm on the phone with Joe Biden. Well, let me talk to him. Well, I'm not on the phone. I'm walking around, so I don't have time for you, because he lies anytime he has the opportunity to do so. And there's just so many lies that he has been telling about what happened there and the preparation there. I pulled up a BBC report. I'm digging for it in my paperwork here. Even the BBC, British Broadcasting Network, I hold it up here. They have done a fact-checking on the criticism of the fires in California. And what Trump has claimed in social media on Saturday, he blames California lawmakers for, quote, the fires are still raging in California. The incompetent politicians have no idea to put them out. Thousands of magnificent houses are gone. He goes on and on. BBC basically says Donald Trump ain't lying. He's not lying. He's telling the truth. The fact check is that Gavin Newsom is a liar. Gavin Newsom is a Sacagawea is what he is, and he's lying about this stuff. So pay very close attention, because Gavin's really desperately trying to go back to his playbook, and the playbook is to call everybody a liar and say it's disinformation, it's Russian disinformation or whatever, but it's not. It's not disinformation. Here's some other facts here. He opposed efforts to direct more water to Southern California. He cited concerns about the fish species. The BBC, independent they have nothing to gain. They said that is true. Trump claimed it. Gavin Newsom denies it. Gavin Newsom is a lying Sacagawea. That's what he is. He also slashed wildfire prevention funding by $100 million. The BBC does the fact check, and yes, he slashed it by $1 million. Karen Bass, whatever she wants to say, as dumb as a box of rocks as she is, she's allowed a $176 million budget cut to firefighting in 2023. And the firefighters said that's one of the reasons that the fire hydrants weren't tested. They got a $176 million haircut in their fire cutting department. And so all the things that Gavin Newsom is out there saying, disinformation. Gavin Newsom is spreading disinformation about disinformation, because all the fact checks, all the documents, some of these are acts of the state legislature. You can see that they are doing this. Some of these are executive actions by the governor. So Gavin Newsom is running scared. If he gets too close to the fire, his hair is going to catch on fire. I'm going to put up a video. This is Carrie Lake, who you might know has run for governor in U.S. Senate of Arizona, not been successful. I believe she's been appointed to lead the Donald Trump Voice of America operation. She's a former broadcaster herself. She's on one of the Newsmax shows over the weekend, and this is what she had to say. I'll put this up myself. Here's the.
I ask you, we've got to deal with this misinformation. There were hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation, lies. People want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that as well.
And that's Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom talking with the Oval Office, and Gavin Newsom is on video stream. And he says, it's disinformation, Mr. President. We didn't do anything wrong. And then they give it to Carrie Lake and let her explain about Gavin Newsom's tactic here.
Oh, boy.
Go right ahead.
I'm so tired of that term.
Yeah.
Whenever a politician screws up, in this day and age, they blame it on misinformation, disinformation. These are the facts. Thousands of people lost their homes, lost everything except the clothes on their back. Lives were lost. Neighborhoods have been wiped out. That's not misinformation. There's no water in the fire hydrants. And Gavin Newsom cares more about his hair gel than helping the people of his state. The mayor is in Africa on a junket. She's not in the city of Los Angeles. I don't care if you have a D or an R behind your name. You need to be run out of office for what happened in California. And the people happen to have D's behind their name. Yeah. Frankly, they're F's, they're failures. They failed the people. And I think this is a huge wake-up call for California. That leadership matters. The problem is voting these people out of office is going to be difficult. We know how they run their elections there with mail-in ballots coming out of everywhere. And it's really hard for the people of California. We need help in this country. It's going to come from President Trump and this great administration. Yeah. I know he cares about the people of California, the people of New York. You talked about some of the devastation on the streets of New York as well. We're going to actually save all of these once wonderful cities and once wonderful states and bring this country together under great leadership, safety, and security.
That's what they do, my friend. Disinformation. Whenever they're failing, whenever they say they're getting called out in the public, they say it's disinformation. And that's what Gavin Newsom did over the weekend to President Biden. And it was televised, and a lot of folks slamming his idiocy and saying that it's disinformation about this lack of response. No, there was a lack of response, and there was a lack of preparation, and it's all documented, Gavin. And you can run, scream, and try to hide, but you can't really hide from the facts. You're a failure as a governor. You failed the people of California. A lot of people's homes burned down because you were an incompetent jackass. That's the truth. That's not disinformation. That's the truth. You did not prepare. You diverted water where did you divert it to, by the way? You diverted it out into the ocean. It was coming in through Northern California. They had what they needed. You wouldn't let it go south because you were afraid of the smelt fish. That is a documented fact, Jared. Jared and Gavin. They're almost interchangeable. Two incompetent governors that think more highly than themselves than they ought. And if you're listening out of state, I'm talking about Jared Polis and Gavin Newsom. They're two arrogant sons of guns cut from the same cloth, think that they've done good by their state, but they have not made their state any better. You look at the last 6 years of Gavin Newsom, is California better off than it was 6 years ago? The answer is no. Unfortunately, some of the idiots in California don't seem to recognize that. They keep electing him. Some of the Hollywood elites continue to surround Gavin Newsom. But I tell you, he's just like Jared Polis. Colorado is a worse state now than it was when Jared Polis took the governor's mansion, and California is not just Colorado's worse, and Colorado's worse, and California is also worse because of the actions of people like Gavin Newsom and Jared Polis. All right, something to pay attention to. I found this meme. You know how much money is coming into our country from foreign countries? Have you seen this big number? You know, we help around the globe. Yeah, that's there's the truth right there. 0.0000000 is the amount that Volodymyr Zelensky, the little punk in Ukraine, he hasn't sent us any money, has he? Israel, have you sent us any money, Israel? We bail your butts out a lot. This is, of course, a stolen meme from Doug Giles. You can see that. The Europeans, have they helped us out any in the fires in California? Or did they help us out with Hurricane Helene? We send bazillions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars overseas to help every one of these countries, many of them good friends and allies. But in the time of need here in America, have the Canadians stepped up? Has old Justin Trudeau said, hey, let's help out? I did hear that the Canadians did send some fire trucks down. They sent some fire trucks down from Canada, but those fire trucks, no joke, got stopped in San Francisco for an emissions test because only certain kinds of trucks can operate in California. And if you're not up to date, if you're not a certain year model, you get sent back. And so I believe the Canadian fire trucks that a local establishment or local municipality send down, those fire trucks, I think, got sent back because San Francisco says you don't meet the standards to drive through the state of California. California is run by jackwagons. And I think Carrie Lake said, is this going to be a wake up call? But look at that number again. All the money that we send foreign aid flowing to the Ukraine, flowing to Israel, flowing to Europe, flowing to Mexico, flowing to Canada. And that's the amount of money they have sent us from Hurricane Helene, all the hurricanes we had, the North Carolina hurricane. Have they helped us any? Nope. Have you heard from Mexico saying, hey, since we're sending a bunch of our criminal illegals over into Southern California, maybe we should send you a couple of bucks here from our narco-terroristic state? Yeah, they don't seem to want to do that either. So anyway, just remember that the next time your politician says we got to send money overseas to help the Europeans, we got to send money overseas to help Ukraine. Just remember, when was the last time they sent money to us in one of our national tragedies? Point taken. I hope so. If you want to go on Instagram, I haven't found the video anywhere else. Kayleigh McEnany, former White House press secretary, also does a fantastic job of lambasting the idiocy and the stupidity of the hair-gelled, greasy-haired Gavin Newsom. She does a fantastic job, and it really is a fan. You got to watch it. Look up Kayleigh McEnany on the Instagram. Look up me as well. But it's a video I could not seem to access for raw feed, and you got to watch her. She's on Fox, and she just goes after. Similar to Carrie Lake, talking about how Gavin Newsom always goes to this phrase, disinformation. Kind of like Democrats, anytime you criticize them or you want to run against them, you must be a racist, bigot, homophobe, Nazi, you're Hitler. That's what they call everybody, right? And now it's if the news media has any news stories that are negative, that must be disinformation. You're getting the pattern here. It's name calling. They cannot stand on their own merits. They cannot stand on their own facts. They cannot stand on their own policies. It's all about the name call, and that's what the Dems are doing. That's what the leftists do out there. It's disinformation, and if it's an individual, you're a racist, bigot, homophobe, misogynist, and Donald Trump's a Nazi. By the way, one of the things that you take away the Carter funeral last week was the chit-chat conversation between Donald Trump and Barry Obama. They seemed to be the only ones that had any joy in their heart. Everybody else looked like they had sat on a toilet plunger when they went to the toilet or something. They looked very miserable there. And Donald and Barry are having a good time. And if you just watch their faces, you say, well, it's a funeral. They're supposed to be somber. Well, they greeted each other. I mean, there was no small talk. Hillary is sitting next to Al Gore. There's no talk between them. The Bushes are there, and other than slapping Obama on the belly, there was no interaction with him. Everybody just looked like they were so uptight and so upset with themselves and not real comfortable in their own skin. Maybe because most of them are fakes and most of them are posers and most of them are charlatans is what they are. But it's just funny to watch the dynamics of it. And I think the body language experts should speak to all of them and say, what were they thinking? I mean, you've been the president of the free world. You're one of 5 living men that are now there are a couple of guys that are survived and still living. Man, you ought to be part of the boys club. This ought to be kind of a joyous reunion, and you at least shake hands and you're there to pay respects to somebody who went before you. But boy, they looked all miserable, except for Barack and Donald Trump. I want you to watch this video. This is a video. It is a trolling meme. I'm sure it's put together with artificial intelligence, but there was a lot of speculation about what Donald and Barry were talking about. This is probably one of the best of the AI speculations about what they were talking about. And this is so good, even Donald Trump himself tweeted this out over the weekend. This is fantastic. Donald Trump is on his A game when it comes to trolling people on the internet. I mean, if there's anybody if you can tell me someone that's a better troll on the internet, let me know. Donald Trump is fantastic. You got to watch this, and I'll try to share it out on my Facebook and Twitter pages and Truth Social pages today. You've got to watch this. It's fantastic. Trump put it out yesterday, but it is what if this was the real conversation? You might have to go to large screen to see the closed captioning, but I think you'll hear the voices. Go ahead, or I'll put it down.
Well, Mr. President.
For a second time. Barack, very nice to see you.
Congratulations. How you doing?
I'm a lot better, Dad.
Yeah, I bet. Knew you'd win.
Oh, really? Well, come on. Anyone could beat her.
Kidding
She's
me?
just...
I was just as appalled. You know what happened? He just didn't want to leave.
I know.
Is what happened. I did what I could to help her. She was horrendous.
I know. You know what I realized? Hillary still hates me. So much.
Watch your face.
I know. She'll never forget me. We should meet to discuss
I
that.
think so, too. We can definitely set something up. Let me know whatever
Oh, my
works
God.
best for you.
I was going to fly back to Florida tomorrow for the golf.
Okay.
Everybody's so somber. And no one it's a funeral, I know, but come on. Watch this. No greetings. No waves. Kamala looks ashamed of herself. Hillary's daring not to make eye contact. This may be the best part coming up.
Did you see that? She won't even look at me.
Really? I was told some of her people. Apparently they said she fell off the wagon.
I think she actually may have. Sure. And also, she's not really built for this. Amount of pressure, if you're not built for it, we'll do it.
There you have it. She fell off the wagon. Donald Trump posted that up this weekend. I thought it was the most fantastic thing I'd seen. And, honestly, that could have been a very, very, very good conversation, a real conversation that happened there. All right, I got some other news I want to get to you about Meta and also about the Panama Canal. But real quick, I want to give you a comparison. We in Colorado here, I remember a few years ago, we had a massive wildfire. Right now in California, They say there's over 12,000 structures that have been destroyed. 12,000. Many of you remember in Colorado, we had a very destructive city fire a couple of years ago, 2021, I believe it was. It was called the Marshall Fire. Blew just outside east of the Boulder area and really destroyed a large swath of a little town called Superior and Louisville, 2 suburbs of the Denver area. And that was right around New Year's Eve. December 30th, I believe 2021 is when that happened. In comparison, the LA fires so far have destroyed over 12,000 structures. The Marshall fires took out 1,084 residential structures and 7 business structures. So it's exponentially worse what's happening in California. And if you remember the devastation we all felt living in Colorado with the Marshall fires and how shocking that was, imagine it being that much worse. Again, over 12,000 structures in California have been destroyed, and only, even if you count that, and I say only in kind of not in a pleasant way, but less than 1,100 total destroyed in Colorado during the Marshall fire. All right, what else do I have here I want to get to? Meta. Anybody, this is the question of the day. This is my question of the day today. Has Mark Zuckerberg is he really a changed man, or does he just have his finger in the air to see which way the wind is blowing? He went on the Joe Rogan podcast and basically said that Joe Biden threatened him. His administration threatened him. He said they were nasty. They threatened investigate. He said that everything that they could threaten, they actually did threaten. And you have to ask yourself a real serious question. Is he now a changed man that he's exposing this nonsense that's happening? Is he a changed man, or is something else going on? I don't know the answer to that. What do you think? Is Mark Zuckerberg a changed man? Feel free to comment in the comment section. I think we're having a little technical difficulty on my computer, so I'm not seeing a lot of the comments come through, but producer Chad's on it. Is he really a changed man? Mark Zuckerberg, is he a changed man, or does he have just his fingers in the wind? Of course, last week he acknowledged that he was going to get rid of the fact checkers and said there are no more fact checkers there, and they're going to run more of a Twitter model. So a lot of the things that have been shadow banned and knocked down for the last many years are no longer going to be shadow banned and knocked down. And also, this is how you know maybe something really is going on. And Scott says his finger's out of this button into the air. That's probably true. But here, this is how I think, well, because you can go out and say things publicly, and you can go out and say you're going to stop the fact checking, and you're going to stop shadow banning people, and you're going to stop, you're going to stop some of the stuff you have been doing. But here's what I think maybe really happened. Maybe he really is a changed man, because one of the things he's doing, they announced they're going to get rid of DEI initiatives. We don't know what that means, but they're going to get rid of them. But here's how you know that maybe he really is a changed man, is the fact that, no joke, they are taking the tampon machines out of the bathrooms for men. Mark Zuckerberg has ordered that Meta officials remove tampons from men's bathrooms. Everything else is lip service. I mean, everything else is just an interview with Joe Rogan. It's a press release out there. But when one of these leftists realizes that maybe we shouldn't have tampons in the men's restrooms, maybe he's a changed man. I just saw one come in by Roger. Zuck was a coward. Were the SS of WW2 any less accountable because they were following orders? Zuck was following orders. He knew they were lies. At least he says he kind of started figuring out they were lies in the Joe Rogan podcast, if you haven't seen it. And so I don't give Zuck much mercy here. I don't give Zuck much mercy for his behavior. I think he owes us an apology for being a coward. Just say you were a coward and own it. But I'm telling you, when I hear the guys pulling the tampons out of the men's room, I go, wow, this may be a real deal. He may be really a changed man. Now, does he owe an apology? Did he handle things correctly? No. But there's the question of the day. Do you believe Zuckerberg? Is he a changed man? If Kamala Harris would have won the presidency, God forbid, for this nation, if she had won, would Kamala Harris, would Zuckerberg be acting any different right now if old Kamala was the president of the United States? Here's the other way to phrase that. Do you think that if would Mark Zuckerberg have taken the tampons out of the men's room at Meta and Facebook had Kamala Harris won? Question of the day, is Zuckerberg a changed man, or is this just a big act that he's putting on? I'm reading some of the comments popping up. Producer Chad's reading them as well, and I'll read some of them. We always like comment on Facebook, comment on the Rumble. Chris says, I think Zuck is a chameleon. He will make business decisions based on who he perceives can help him or hurt him in the political realm. So Chris says he's just got his finger in the air. John says Zuckerberg is scared to death that legal protections for applications like his will be taken away. If that happens, Facebook is dead. Well, that's kind of what he alluded to in the Joe Rogan interview, is that the federal government has a lot of control and they can start regulating you. And this is the weaponization of our government. And it could happen to any business out there whenever they start regulating you, and they can drive you out of business if they want to, or at least make it very painful for you to do that. And a lot of it's not through acts of Congress. A lot of it's through the regulatory state. And that's something that just, even if Zuck were scared, and even if he were a coward, you have to ask yourself, if you were running the business and they're threatening to regulate you and drive your stock down, what is your fiduciary responsibility to your stockholders? I mean, again, I'm not saying the guy's not a chameleon. I'm not saying the guy's not a scum, but I'm saying that he may be a changed man, but he was a coward. I think you can be a changed man and have been a coward. And then always ask yourself, how would you have responded had they been saying, hey, you're going to do this. You're going to do this, or else we're going to regulate the hell out of you. And we're going to bring down the Federal Trade Commission on you. We're going to look at antitrust action against you. I mean, we're going to really come after you, Zuck. All you got to do is pull down a couple of these videos about the Dr. Fauci and this COVID stuff. If you just pull them down, then we'll keep the FTC at bay and we'll keep the regulators out of there. The antitrust stuff, we won't even look at it. More comments coming in. Question of the day: Is Zuckerberg a coward? Is he a changed man, or is he just a coward that has his finger in the air? More comments coming in on the Facebook. It looks like Dan is speaking. Zuckerberg is a cowardly little boy pointing his little finger at that big bad wolf, squealing like a pig. Now, I will tell you this. I follow a lot of different voices online. A lot of different voices, conservative, liberal, etc. And I follow this guy named Lance Wall now. He's a Christian minister. And I remember an observation he had. This is why I started thinking maybe Zuck's got something changing inside of him. And I do remember that when there were photos of Zuckerberg when he went down to Mar-a-Lago after the election, and he was staring in the eyes of Donald Trump. And Lance looked at it and he said, I think that's a guy that looks like he has some, he sees a strong man. For the first time in his life, he sees a man that's actually a man, a strong man. And he says, wow, this guy, remember Zuckerberg after the assassination attempt in Pennsylvania, Zuckerberg said, wow, that man is a badass. And so I think there has been some transitioning in Zuckerberg's mind, is that he's been so surrounded with a bunch of Silicon Valley elites that I think Zuckerberg may be having a change of heart that's been progressing. We've led to this point. It doesn't mean he wasn't a coward in how he acted during the COVID, etc., in the last many years. But it is possible that you could have been a coward and a punk and maybe having a change of heart. So that's just me. My thought, again, ready for this? The question of the day is Mark Zuckerberg a changed man, or is he just a guy with his finger in the air, and he would be acting differently had Kamala won the election? All right, now come back to some of your responses. Keep responding out there. Keep liking everything we say. Keep sharing if you would. Give your comments on all the forums. If you're on Rumble, keep those Rumble comments coming. And that's on the right-hand side. I think it says live chat. Good morning to YouTube this morning. How are you doing on the YouTube channel? Always need more YouTube followers. YouTube is kind of a key. I don't think they like us there, the YouTube, but we'd love to have you on YouTube as well. So give us a like there. Love to have you follow us on all the platforms. Even if you just watch on one, like us on all of them. It helps grow the numbers and helps the algorithms. All right. You ready for a guest? I'm ready for a guest. I'm ready for my friend Gregory Wrightstone. I'll tell you, let me give this setup. A lot of Gavin Newsom's out there, and a lot of matter of fact, I did a quick cursory search last night. I'll do the setup here with bring Greg to the stage. I did a chat GPI search. I said, is there any blame for Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass for the wildfires? And chat GPT said, oh, climate change. And then the very bottom, it said it said, well, they probably could have prepared better, but they were programmed to say climate change. Then I will tell you, I had this other source that I use for AI, and it actually said it went through a lot of the things that they did wrong, and it did bring up climate change, but it wasn't as prominent as ChatGPT. Just so you know, if you're getting information from AI, you may remember that AI is only as good as the way that it has been programmed to go. All right, let me bring in Gregory Wrightstone. It's always a pleasure to have him on the program. I know what he thinks about climate change and the wildfires in California. Greg Wrightstone, good morning, sir. How are you?
Oh, good. And Jimmy, I learned a new term for these fires. It's called climate whiplash. And so, because what they did, if you remember, the last year and a half or 2 years, actually Southern California has an increased amount of precipitation. And they can't, how do you explain that? They've been predicting droughts in perpetuity. So they say it's now this new thing that human emissions are causing climate whiplash to go from one extreme to the other. And so what we see here is that really there's incompetence at every level of government that we could point to, from local, state, and federal levels, that would lead to not having water when they needed it. But I think the main thing we take away from these big fires is it's a natural occurrence from the Santa Ana winds, and these are katabatic winds is the terminology. They arise in the high, cold Sierra deserts of Nevada, and then they sweep down through the canyons, gaining heat and drying out. And these might have been the strongest winds, approaching 100 miles an hour. And when that happens, it's likely having water, of course, would help. There's no doubt about that. But these things are likely to have occurred almost like they did without the water, because of these high winds. And the other thing is, because of the wet weather over the last 2 years, we've had a great increase of grasses and shrubs. We've got a commentary coming out from our fire expert, Jim Steele, later today. And he talks about 1 hour fuels and 10-hour fuels. And the 1 hour fuels are things like grasses and small shrubs, arroyos, that dry out within less than 60 minutes. You could have rainfall in the morning, these hot, dry winds come through, and they're flammable within an hour. The 10-hour fuels are a little bit bigger size, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch thick. Basically, if you think of it as kindling, they can dry out within 10 hours. And so we've got this, and we've got a buildup of this. We've got a lot more fuel for the fire when it does start. And credit California, back in 2019, they identified that that's a real problem they needed to fix, and they've accelerated a little bit their controlled burns, clearing of the brush, but nowhere near where they need to be. And it's a problem they need to address. So the problem we have here: hot, natural Santa Ana winds, combined with an increasing fuel supply of grasses and the like. And that was what drove the Paradise Fire as well.
It's amazing that when I ran for Congress back in 2010, I remember, just because you're a conservative Republican, have a certain viewpoint, they automatically call you racist, bigot, homophobe, because of your political views rather than the merit of ideas. So now Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass are getting criticized for the preparation. There's been a great amount of rainfall, but they've been diverting the water out of the Pacific Ocean. Gavin Newsom denies that, by the way. I was not concerned about that smelt fish. Yes, you were. But now they're just saying it's disinformation, rather than prove Gregory Wrightstone wrong and the CO2 coalition wrong. They just say you're a disinformation, maybe a Russian spy for all we know. Russia. They have no argument.
Yeah, they don't. But the good news is, things they don't like that we talked about, Facebook now, Mark Zuckerberg, what a change. They're moving away from DEI. But before that, last week, he announced he's admitted that they've been censoring people, and they're not going to do it. We saw whenever Elon Musk bought Twitter that he stopped the censorship. And so I guess my question for you is, what do we, is LinkedIn next to get away from censorship? Because as you know, I was banned permanently from LinkedIn by posting actual science, facts, and data from NASA. And you might recall my last post on LinkedIn. I said, I think I'm about to be banned and deplatformed. And LinkedIn removed it, said it was false and misleading, and then banned and deplatformed me.
Wow. We stream this show live also on the YouTube, and they're not real friendly to values, and we'll see if they change. A couple of weeks ago, I was interviewing an autobiographer for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's written, or not an autobiographer, a biographer. He's written a book. And I asked, where in the world did Robert F. Kennedy Jr. come up with his viewpoints and thoughts? And I don't even say the word anymore on that right there, the V word. And we were not preaching a sermon on that word. We weren't doing anything. We were just simply asking how Robert F. Kennedy drew that conclusion. Within hours, I had AI sending me the bot from the Tube of the U that we had been shut down. That show was done. And that was our first warning. We got 3 strikes. We're out of there because we were making the World Health Organization pissed off by letting somebody tell us how we weren't giving data ourselves. How did Robert F. Kennedy reach this conclusion? You can't eat. They didn't even want you to tell that story on YouTube.
Well, it's true. And if you look at it, we've all seen what happened during the COVID era. We found out, and your viewers found out, that the experts are wrong often, and they often lie and know it and intentionally spread disinformation. We know that to be a fact now, looking back on COVID. And I will tell you, hopefully before too long, in not too many years, and hopefully months, that you'll look back and say that what we're being told about climate change is far and away worse and more disinformation than what we were talking about COVID and the experts being wrong. And there's just almost everything we look at, from fires to sea level rise, desertification, increasing deserts. We can go down a whole laundry list of 18 or 25 of these items and say, this is what they're telling you, and here's what the facts are. And case after case after case, we just see that the facts don't support what they're saying. And people, when I show them the facts and the data, their eyes get wide. I've never heard that. Yeah, because we're silenced, we're censored. They need to censor me and my colleagues at the CO2 Coalition because we tell a compelling, fact-based narrative.
A lot of the Green New Deal initiatives are really meant to control us, and if they can blame it on some mysterious change in the atmosphere, then you don't have to talk about the slash of $100 million for wildfire prevention. You don't have to talk about the $17.6 million budget cut for the LA Fire Department so that you can have diversity, equity, inclusion, and have people crossing the southern border. You don't have to talk about diverting millions of gallons from Northern California out into the ocean because the fish were prioritized over the people. So rather than let a politician be exposed for having priorities above people, other things prioritized above people, let's just blame it on disinformation and blame it on climate change.
Yeah, that's what they do. Fear's a great motivator. What they're doing is using fear to impose control over every aspect of your life, and it's from your home to. They claim what's one of the big things they claim? Oh, I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-choice. No, you're not. You're anti-choice. You're not allowing the citizens and your viewers to choose what kind of car to drive, how to heat their home, what temperatures to heat or cool their home, what kind of a ceiling fan to get, dishwasher, shower, all of these things. No, they're not about choice. They want to strip you, and they're systematically stripping your viewers' freedoms. He just last week, he's trying to control. They're banning gas stoves, everything related to natural gas, limiting oil and gas exploration. So no, they're anti-choice. They're not pro-choice.
I did, right before you came on, I did make the announcement that the Zuckerberg thing, I don't know if he really got his heart right, his head right, or if he just has his finger in the wind going, okay, times are changing, I got to stop this censorship. But I really think he might have had a change of heart because you can say a lot of things lip service and say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and nothing ever happens, but you've said it, it's in the paper, and you're good. he actually took the tampon machines out of the men's restrooms.
I saw that.
And that's how I said, oh, maybe he's really legit about this, because you can say all the other stuff and whether you do it or not, but tampon machines is like a tangible thing. You move those out of the men's room and wow, you've gotten red pilled.
You have. And I'm going to test. Well, let's see. I think I'm with you. I think he has had a change of heart. And he now admits, I think he's regretting, he was being controlled by the Biden administration. They were telling him who to censor, what to censor, and what to allow out there. And he's been used. He's been used and abused. And so I'll hopefully get me back on here in another couple of weeks. After I'm going to do an experiment, I'm going to try to get back on LinkedIn, see if they've reformed at all.
I don't know. We'll find out. It's going to take him a bit. I know it took Elon a little bit of time. He had to fire a bunch of employees, and they had to dig into the algorithms. And it takes a while to purge out the devil. You got to go find every things that you figure that there's some probably Trojan horses out there that they're going to have to find. But if he's real and he's legit, then the next few weeks, the next few months, we should be able to see a difference there. And but when he took the tampons from the men's room, I said, "Wow, that's a big deal," because that's provable that he's on board with this thing as opposed to just lip service.
Who knew they had them in the first place? I heard about the vice presidential candidate was in favor of tampons in the men's rooms, or boys' rooms.
Yeah. Well, I maybe Tim Walz is maybe Zuckerberg can send his removed tampon machines to Tim Walz, and Tim Walz can find something to do with him there in Minnesota. So Zuck, recycle, don't put them in the landfill, because we're all about the environment here on this program. Gregory Wrightstone, my guest, if you're just listening to the audio portion. Greg, real quick, talk about the CO2 Coalition, because we're bombarded every day with this climate change, global warming, Green New Deal. Donald Trump's going to go into the office and he's going to change some of the Green New Deal and the Paris Climate Accord. He's already taken us out of. I mean, he's going to be under fire by the media, saying that he's really going to burn down the planet and it's going to explode real soon. What will they find at your site, and what should we expect to hear about Trump?
The site is co2coalition.org, co2coalition.org. And we're nearly 200 of the top experts in the world. I'm a geologist, physicist. We have a Nobel laureate in physics that sits on our board. We have just brilliant experts surrounding me, and I'm honored to lead this group. One of the things I'm most proud of, our members were very concerned about the state of science education in America, and they've actually done something about it. This is some 18 or 20. These are mostly PhDs. You think they're eggheads, but what they've come up with are it's wonderful. We just published our most recent book. I authored it. The title, you'll love this. It's Chloe the Clownfish Sleeps Well. And it's done in manga style, art style, by an artist that works for us full time in Brazil. It's about a clownfish that lives on the Great Barrier Reef. And we're able to use science of what's actually happening to teach children. Children just love it. It's just beautiful. They're interesting. And we're able to tell children the science that they can. I call it the Sleep Well series. That learn more and your children can sleep well. And that's what Chloe the Clownfish learns. And so we got a whole series of these. And next up is Foxy the Fruit Bat that lives on the Maldives Island. That's going to be underwater, not. And so I'm really proud of the education initiative. And we also have lesson plans that go along with each of these. It's done by a PhD scientist. It was AP Science. She creates these extensive lesson plans, and the homeschool community is just very happy when they learn about the materials we're providing.
I got a text here a second ago off the chat room, but a text, and I want you to double down and explain again. You said that because we've been hearing back to the California fires, or we'll kind of go back to where we started and we'll end here. And your website, co2coalition.org, co2coalition.org. We've been told that there's a drought in California. They're out of water, and it's all drought. It's all climate change. And you started this conversation by saying they've had actually quite a bit of rain. They're saying the reservoirs are dry because of climate change. They've had quite a bit of rain. Go back and repeat that again for the listeners that joined in late.
Well, Southern California is basically a desert or near desert areas. There are actually 4 different declared deserts in that area. Going back to this lack of rainfall is basically just returning to normal. What's been abnormal has been the amount of rain they've had over the last year and a half or 2 years. And you remember they talked about these atmospheric rivers that we heard about starting 2 years ago. And so there was a lot, and the drought disappeared. And it's come back recently in recent months. But again, this is a return to normal for a very, very arid Southern California.
No. Gregory Wrightstone, it's always a pleasure, and climate whiplash is what they blame it on. I blame it. Somebody, I said last week to somebody, I said, they say it's an act of God, that this is the insurance would call it an act of God. Fire can be an act of God. So maybe you call it that with the insurance purposes, but a lot of this is just man-made stupidity and carelessness has caused a lot of this damage out there, my opinion.
It could be, and a lot of these people didn't have fire insurance because of the governmental policies of refusing to allow the insurance companies to raise their rates. I live in Florida. I'm at a hurricane risk. We live south of Tampa. We're paying high insurance rates, but you can't just ban a company from raising its rates. It's natural. If you're in that business, you want to protect yourself as a company and provide that insurance for people, even if it's a bit pricey.
Somebody just posted, and I'll let you go, CO2 Coalition. Somebody just posted there in the chat. It says, I hope Chloe is a non-binary fish or may not get approved by educational use.
Well, the schools and the teachers that we're going to are not woke. They're not going to bow to the woke gods. We're mostly charter schools and a big homeschool community use. So thank you.
Got it. Gregory Wrightstone, always a pleasure, my friend. CO2 Coalition, CO2 Coalition. .org, co2coalition.org. Brian Maloney is going to be with us in just a bit from Red Wave America. Some of you will then squawk and say, where's Megan Barth? Megan is still out for the holidays, and she hopefully she's going to be with us next Monday. We're just determining whether she'll join us from Washington, D.C. for the inauguration or whether she will join us from her home in Nevada. So, but Megan Barth should be back next week. So instead of Megan Monday, we're going to have Maloney Monday with Brian Maloney. That's coming straight up top of the hour. You don't want to miss that. Hey, real quick, I want to remind you, I mentioned next week is the inauguration 1 week from today, and we're having a big inauguration party. You're welcome to join us. I don't know where you're at in America listening. Matter of fact, we looked at some numbers last night. We've got listeners. We had some in Ghana. Maybe that was Karen Bass. A couple of in India have logged in. This is just on Friday's show. South Africa, really, Italy and India. I mean, we Germany also. We got some German listeners out there, viewers. So hello around the globe. Let us know. But we look at the data where we have listeners and viewers at. And so fly in from out of state, fly in from out of the country if you want to, and come have a celebratory cigar with us. It's going to be this 1 week from today, Monday, the 20th of January, at the Lafayette Cigar Bar called Casbar Cigar Lounge. It's in Colorado. It's just right between Denver and Boulder, so easy access, even probably 30 minutes south of the Fort Collins, 20 minutes south of the 30 minutes south of the Loveland area. If you're in the area listening, we got a lot of listeners in Colorado, but that's where it's at. It's about 30 minutes from the airport if you do want to fly in, because I'd love for you to. But it's a free event. It's going to be fantastic. Casbar Cigar, Lafayette, Colorado, for inauguration party. Yes, we will do the show live. So if you can't join us live, then next Monday, this exact same time, I will be behind this microphone with a live audience, and we'll be doing the show live. It'll be a lot of fun next Monday. And they got some great cigars here for you to purchase, and celebratory cigars. And it's going to be a very, very fun day. All right. We're going to go to the stolen meme section of the show, but I want to also remind you very quickly before we do, if you haven't reached out to us as an advertiser, you need to do so. And also on the Patreon, info@jimmylakey.com, if you'd like to advertise. As a matter of fact, that Rivers Promise logo above my head, those could be replaced with your business if you want to be a studio sponsor. Info@jimmylakey.com. A lot of exposure, as you can see, really not just in Colorado, but all around as we look at the numbers that are starting to come in as we get started on this daily update the first few weeks in. Info@jimmylakey.com. And also, I want to remind you the Patreon page. This is obviously free. If you like Gregory Wrightstone, there's a piece behind the Patreon wall that is a long-form interview with Greg Wrightstone. I think you will enjoy that conversation. It's one that we never played on this program. So I've got a lot of interviews that go longer and deeper happening in the Patreon page. There's a free, just go, we changed the page to make it easier. You go to patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. You'll see the free option. That way you get notified when these shows go up. But then right below it, you can see a paid option. It's $9.95 a month, 7-day free trial. And there's actually, I think if it's not dropping right now, it'll hit your inbox here in the next couple of minutes. It's an interview with Leighton Gray about the state of Canada and whether or not the state, as in the operation of Canada, and whether Canada could become a state. Leighton Gray, a big-time attorney in Canada, joined me for about a 45-minute conversation. It's really, you learn more about Canada in that than you've probably ever wanted to know before. All right, let's bring back up the stolen memes section of the show. I started off with one that we may not have it anymore, but it was about the foreign money coming in to help us with our wildfires. Well, here's the stolen memes, another one. We got a kid in a swimming pool. And the kid in the swimming pool, and then you see the Biden administration helping Ukraine get in the pool while the California fire victims are sinking. And then you can see people in North Carolina still living in tents. But what's the Biden administration doing over there? He's got little Volodymyr Zelensky over in floaties on the side of the pool while everybody in his own country are drowning. This is the prioritization of Joe Biden in his administration. That is a stolen meme, but is very, very well depicted. You could also look at, you could put in the place of Joe Biden there, you could put Gavin Newsom, and you could have him playing with the smelt fish over there on the side while the people of California are burning up in the fires of hell because of Gavin Newsom's mismanagement of the city. Here's another one I think is an important reminder. That, and again, there's a lot of real people hurting in California, and there's a lot of great agencies out there. But just remember, beware when you have the big celebrities out there that are asking you for a lot of the donations and for help for rebuilding the Hollywood. Remember, the people in Asheville, North Carolina right now are still sleeping in tents and campers in a cold weather spell that brought ice and snow over the past week. And some people still living in tents because the Biden administration has spent millions and billions of dollars in Ukraine. But people in Asheville, North Carolina, after Hurricane Helene hit them, they're actually still living in tents. That is a true fact. And no joke, as Joe Biden would say, no joke. And it is very, very, very important to remember that. So, again, help the real people in California. But these celebrities out there, you know, their third, fourth home, you know, God bless them. I don't wish any ill on them. But let's not forget, just because Los Angeles is sexier than North Carolina, let's not forget the people that the Biden administration and the Democrats have forgotten in North Carolina as well. Here's one from Kevin Sorbo, one of the conservatives that are out in the Hollywood area. He brings up a very good point going back to what we were talking about with that word here, the VAX, remember that one? Yeah. If the shots were given away for free because they're life-saving, why isn't insulin free? Chemotherapy, EpiPens. Why do you gotta, if they're that important and you have to give them away for free, maybe they couldn't survive in the free market. I don't know, but you force people to get them. Here's another one from Steve Byrne. I'm not responsible for this. You'd think that LA's reservoirs could have had more water since LA's fire department installed 3 dikes. I'm not responsible for that one. If you had coffee in your mouth, I hope you spewed it out. That's comedian Steve Byrne. He said it. His house burned down in Pasadena. He's got every right to make that conversation. But I think it's a great point. You would think that they could have more water there. Okay, I don't know if this was a real headline. So, stolen meme section of the show. Welcome in. Was this real on the New York Post? I've not been able to find it. But what we're looking at, the Monroe Doctrine, which basically meant manifest destiny, or the world is ours, if you want. They're calling this the Donroe Doctrine. And the Donroe Doctrine, talking about the Canadians and Greenland up there, and then the Panama Canal. It's a great headline. I'm not sure that this was a true New York Times post, but if you look where it came from, look at the top of the screen. That actually came from real Donald Trump. That is actually Donald Trump put that out there. So he liked it and he saw it and he retweeted it. The same way that he put out that great trolling of the funeral and the Jimmy Carter funeral and the Barack Obama. So if you don't follow the real Donald Trump, he put some great content out there. All right, speaking of, we'll come back and talk about the Donroe Doctrine and the Panama Canal. This is one, again, I'm not responsible for this. I'm going to blame this on one of the hipster youth here. But, you had Hillary try to become the president, and then you had Kamala try to become the president, and now both got beat, and now they're going to be in a new movie called Back to the Kitchen. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. America has spoken, kids. They have spoken back. I didn't come up with this. It's a stolen meme. It is a stolen meme. That's all I'm doing. I just steal the memes. I report, you decide. Don't blame me for that. Come on. You got to have a sense of humor. That's funny. Back to the kitchen. Who do you think the better cook? Kamala used to like to do cooking shows and talk about her Indian food until she became a black woman. And then she didn't like to do that anymore. But she used to talk about Indian food all the time. So anyway, back to the kitchen. All right, let me I got another video I want to play for you. There's still this talk, that Don Roe Doctrine thing, the Don Roe Doctrine as far as the Panama Canal. And a lot of folks think that there's just going to be a lot of swagger. Well, this is not swagger. Denmark basically has a couple of bobsled teams, if you will, and that's all they have. And if China or Russia, who are already doing some work, and you're about to hear this from our incoming national security advisor, are already starting to get closer and closer to Greenland, if they decide to forcefully take Greenland, Denmark's not going to be able to do a dang thing about it. And Greenland's gone, and we have the enemy in our backyard. That's why Greenland is so important. The Panama Canal is being sold off in management to China, and this is the deal that we signed in 1977. It gave us the right to defend the canal's neutrality if needed, and it specified a neutrality treaty, and it said that we have the ability to use military force to keep the canal open and to keep it neutral. Well, the Panamanians are out there, and they're doing something that's letting China have a lot more access. And matter of fact, let me play this video. This is over the weekend on ABC News. This is your incoming national security advisor, when they said, is President Trump really going to try to take back the Panama Canal? I think he gets into Greenland, but listen to this. This is the explanation. I think it's very important you understand that this isn't just Donald Trump having swagger and trying to grow a global empire. This is Donald Trump looking after America's best interest. And this is what was said this weekend by the incoming national security advisor when asked about starting with the Panama Canal.
Well, look, what he's very serious about is the threats that we're facing in the Arctic, the threats that we're facing in the Western Hemisphere. And don't just take that from him or me. The general in charge of our Southern Command, Laura Richardson, testified last year about Chinese state-owned enterprises bidding and buying up portions of the canal, the ports on either side, Huawei, the Chinese technology firm, dominating the free trade zone in their telecommunications, with 70% of U.S. shipping flowing through the Panama Canal, with our oil and gas exports flowing from the Gulf through there, with it critical for our military. There are elements for the U.S. to come in and defend its critical assets in the Panama Canal, in the Panama Canal Treaty, in the Neutrality Treaty. And for Greenland, there's precedent there as well with the 1951 defense agreement that we entered. And look, to our great friends and allies in Denmark, they literally have a couple of dog sled teams, Jonathan, up in Greenland. And when we're seeing Russia with 60 icebreakers, when we're seeing huge critical mineral, oil and gas, new shipping lanes being opened with the retreating of the polar ice cap, enough is enough of having our adversaries coming into our Western Hemisphere, threaten our national security. And President Trump is ready to take big, bold steps to ensure the United States is well defended.
Okay, we're really out of time, but just let me underline. So are you saying that, I understand the goals, that's a diplomatic goal, or are you talking about using military force to achieve those goals?
Well, look, President Trump is always going to leave all options on the table, but there are a number of things we can enter into to amend those existing agreements. We're hearing from the Greenlanders that they are pushing towards independence, which would allow all types of other avenues. But President Trump's never going to take an option off the table, unlike, frankly, his predecessor. So when it comes to our national defense, that is paramount to the commander-in-chief.
How many of you knew that with this weak administration, this feckless, demented old man that we don't know who's running it, and his idiotic vice presidential candidate who's incompetent in her own right. How many of you knew that the Russians had 60 icebreakers up by Greenland, and they were working to make new shipping channels over into their neck of the woods with the polar ice caps? Anybody know that? Had you heard of that? Were you aware that China had been infesting the Panama Canal, controlling both the entry on both sides and the exit on both sides, and Huawei was making great investments down in the Panamanian area? Were you aware of any of this? This has all been happening, and as our new national security advisor said, this has all been happening under the watchful eye of the incompetent, demented, evil crime family of the Biden family and Kamala Harris, and we've been told that Donald Trump was a threat to democracy. Don't you think it'd be more of a threat to democracy to allow the Chinese to run the Panama Canal and to take that over? Don't you think it's a threat to democracy for an administration to allow China to start to get a foothold in Greenland? Listen, the reason they're talking about Greenland and Panama Canal, etc., is because the national security advisors to say, hey, these are threats here in our own hemisphere, and it's no longer. Remember, it used to be we would never face big attacks. It'd be hard for them to invade us because we're so far away and we're so isolated. And yet now we find out that we have an administration that lets us be invaded by illegal aliens, and maybe they might not be too opposed if they get invaded by a foreign army. Again, they always cue you as to what they're thinking by what they do, and what they do is they call you all sorts of names. They call you they call you disinformationist. They call you somebody who's giving fake information, and yet they are the ones that give you fake information. Joe Biden today is going to do a foreign policy speech. He's winding down his administration. He's got a week from today. He's going to get his ass out of the White House and head off to the happy hunting grounds of the home, wherever they're going to put him. He's out of there. Kamala's going to head back and I don't know, find a job somewhere in California, maybe run for governor. They think we're talking about incompetent. You go from one incompetent governor to the next. That would be we'll see if California is that stupid. And by measure, they seem to have been that stupid in years past. But it's just amazing. They always want to tell you what it is that what they tell you you're doing, accuse you of, is usually what they're doing. Why is there such a FEMA response difference between North Carolina, Florida, and California? Could it be Trump country versus Democratic stronghold? Remember the directive to skip homes with Trump flags? Biden declaring almost immediately the federal government is going to fully fund the California fire response. Yeah, I mean, why are people in North Carolina still living in tents? Was the person ever fired that told the FEMA people to go door to door? Now, I was listening to somebody talk the other day about this thing. They said FEMA's going to do 100% of the coverage. You know what that means? That's Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass are out there in California bragging and saying FEMA's going to give 100% back, 100% reimbursement. Does that mean that people that have no insurance are going to get reimbursement? No, that's not what that means. What that means is, listen to this. This is what it means when you hear Gavin Newsom out there. People are chirping at him and jumping up and down his skin and blaming him for his idiocy. When you hear Gavin Newsom or Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, say 100% reimbursement, you know what that means? That means you're toast. If FEMA's going to give you whatever amount they'll give you, $750, they're going to give you what they can, and you're on your own. If you didn't have insurance and Tough Tacos Tootsie, they're not going to 100% reimburse the people. That 100% reimbursement claim for FEMA is actually they're going to reimburse California 100% of anything they spend in response to this. So whatever California gives out and whatever they try to help you with, they're going to reimburse the coffers of California. It doesn't mean individuals get, but an individual out there in desperation says, okay, at least FEMA is going to give us 100% reimbursement because of the Biden administration. No, that has nothing to do with you. That's government to government. That's not government to individual. Just throwing that out there for you. All right, a lot of great information coming out in that interview with the National Security Advisor. And I just think it's fascinating that we did not know all this stuff. Did you know that China has really been taking over the Panama Canal? Jim just posted something up that I heard this yesterday as well. China has added additional locks along the Panama Canal that are still not working well, still using good old U.S.-made locks because they were dependable. China's kind of taken over operation. The Panamanians have done that. And the 1977 treaty says the U.S. has the right to defend the canal's neutrality. It has the ability to use military force if necessary to keep the canal open. It says U.S. warships will have expeditious passage through the canal when needed, and we have the right to intervene to ensure the canal remains open and secure as stated by the Permanent Neutrality Treaty in 1977. And again, if you didn't listen to that interview with the national security incoming director for Trump, you didn't know that the canal has been compromised by commie Chinese and the weak leadership in Panama. You didn't know that the Russians had 60 icebreakers out making new shipping lanes over to Greenland. You didn't know that until the Trump administration starts to tell you that. Jeff says maybe the Russian icebreakers should be blamed for the polar ice cap shrinkage. That's the first time we've used the word shrinkage on the program this morning, because we are above junior high humor here. All right, let me bring in my next guest. He's a very gracious fellow that lets us have access to Red Wave America on Facebook. He also lets us have access to the Media Equalizer out there on the Facebook. We're also on the X, the Rumble, the Twitter. If you're on any of those platforms, please like and share us. We always like to have you. Welcome into the daily update of the Lakey Unleashed is Mr. Brian Maloney, media star extraordinaire. Brian, good morning, sir.
You are the media star, Jimmy. You have hit the ground running with this thing, and you've already got it on every platform there is. So you're the man.
How you like the backdrop? We're gonna
nice backdrop. Very, very nice. Very nice.
The House of Lakey. Now, the Rivers Promise is my charity. We're selling those spots for sponsors. So anybody who wants to be a sponsor, they can become the studio sponsor. But in the meantime, we're just going to plug away my charity into the work we do there. So it's good. Brian Maloney, you spent some time in California, and we're talking about these fires. And Gavin Newsom says it's all disinformation about how they're covering the fires. It's disinformation. I've done all the research I could this weekend, and it's not disinformation. Gavin Newsom, there's plenty of water, millions of gallons. They were in Northern California. They've plenty of rain. He's diverting it out into the ocean because he's afraid of the smelt fish in Southern California getting, I guess, drowned. They can't have that kind of water. What do you make of this? They continue to say it's just disinformation when it's actually the truth.
Well, the bottom line here is that decades of cumulative obsession over Delta smelt and other tiny fish have come to bite them in the rear, Jimmy, because, people, when you start to lose the core people who've been supporting you all these years because they're wondering why their cities are burning down, it doesn't bode well. And what's particularly odd right now is, I don't know if you did check out the Media Equalizer page on Facebook this morning, but I posted video of Gavin Newsom yesterday on the news giving a reporter a very strange assessment of what was going on. And what's strange is his body language, and the same thing with Mayor Karen Bass. If you see them in media interviews, they are strangely giddy. They're giggling, laughing like little school children. But the other thing is, Gavin Newsom does this strange little dance like this, the very, very kind of effeminate kind of, he's just like this, and he does it for a while. It's about 10 seconds of like this, this shoulder dance thing, and right in front of the camera. Yeah, I don't know why someone would behave like that, but I can only imagine he's nervous. He knows that his 2028 presidential aspirations might be just, burning up in smoke.
I found it interesting. Gavin Newsom says, he said, don't take cheap political shots talking about Trump. I got a story here in front of me that even the BBC, I have it here, BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, they've got no dog in the fight. They say fact-checking criticism of California's Democrats over fires. And the BBC says Donald Trump's right and Gavin Newsom's lying about this stuff. I mean, even they say, yeah, you prioritized in a 2020 memorandum about diverting the water. And Gavin Newsom's been called out, and he's being called out. So he says now this is disinformation.
Well, even a New York Times columnist was, which one was it, was doing the same, kind of calling him out last night. I retweeted it, and I ended up saying, if you've lost the New York Times, Gavin, you're in real trouble. So I think that, he's starting to realize, but the nonchalant attitude that these people have, someone was just nailed it last night also on social media who said that, the reason why they don't care about public safety is that there's no, it doesn't really line the pockets of their key friends and allies. So that's why it's a low priority. And that's why the tiny little smelt is the priority, because there are 1,000 nonprofits set up to, that their friends can run, and they can shift money around from one person to the other, from one group to the next, tax dollars and grants and whatever else. And so, I mean, they have built a system that rewards their network, right? And these firefighters are just not part of it, except the management at the top that can make $750,000 a year to have dry hydrants. So where you could have on the top the DEI hires like Karen Bass has done. By the way, I want to mention, everyone seems to have forgotten, Jimmy, that Karen Bass was Joe Biden's second choice for VP behind Kamala Harris. I'm not kidding you. People have forgotten Karen Bass was almost chosen as VP.
It's true. And she's dumber than a box of rocks or bricks there. Let me show you this. I'm not responsible for this, Brian, but I'm Lakey Unleashed. I've been unleashed from the confines of corporate radio. This is comedian Steve Byrne, and he put this out over the weekend. His house burned in Pasadena. He says, you'd think LA's reservoirs could hold more water since LA's fire department installed 3 dikes. So.
Well, that's the kind of thing that Michael Richards is still trying to rebuild his career over, that kind of comedy. So the poor guy.
Steve Byrne, his house burned down in Pasadena, at his family house, and he's been calling Gavin Newsom out. If you follow him, comedian Steve Byrne, he's really funny guy, and he picks on both sides. He's not a I don't think he's a Trumper. He's just a guy that is out there making jokes, and everybody's fair game.
I think if you just lost your house, you can say whatever the heck you want. I think you have license to let her rip.
He's not a big fan of Gavin Newsom right about now. I can tell you that his comedy is reflecting that.
Well, no, I have to say personally, I had no idea how many people I personally knew who have been affected by these fires. I never really tracked it or thought about where the people I know live in that extent. I grew up in California, but not that part of California. I grew up the coast. And, and these are good people. Some people are saying, well, they got what they deserve. There's a lot of that going around, but Pacific Palisades is not an area that voted liberal, really hardly at all. So in fact, they didn't support Karen Bass in that area. So that's not fair at all. And actually some of the best conservatives I know live right around there. So, you can't generalize this stuff at all.
No, not at all. I mean, there's some whack jobs in California, but there's also some real good people. And it's sad to see that over 12,000 structures have burned. Let me ask you, I have a question of the day going, Brian, about Mark Zuckerberg. Went on the Joe Rogan podcast recently and says that the Biden administration was cursing and pressuring and threatening them to censor. It seems like he's had a mea culpa. And I've asked the question of the day, is Zuckerberg really a changed man, or is the finger in the air seeing which way the wind is blowing? And I'm thinking he may be a changed man because, you can go do interviews and say you're going to get rid of the algorithms and things, but he actually took the tampons out of the men's restroom. That's a tangible action that maybe he's legitimately changing here.
What I think is going on right now is Zuckerberg got tired of being barked at by the White House, by the Biden White House, but also he is playing to power. Zuckerberg saw the election results, and I think a lot of what Silicon Valley does is simply adapt to whoever is in power at the moment, and that's what they're doing right now. Now, what Zuckerberg is saying is, we're not going to do all the censorship that we were doing, but the truth about how Silicon Valley works is that they might cut down on the censorship. They might, you might not have one of those annoying warnings on your post or be in Facebook jail as much, but that doesn't mean that your post will have reach, that anyone will see it. And that's how Elon Musk has continued to censor free speech on Twitter, that's now called X. Your tweet goes out, but only 3 people see it. And that's what Zuckerberg is doing at Facebook. So he is saying, hey, you'll probably be able to post that and not be in trouble, but nobody's going to see it. And that's what he's not telling you. And that's what none of these guys ever tell you.
Yeah, the shadow banning, that nobody's promised that the shadow banning goes away. You think I've done that on my page before, send something out. I realized I didn't even see it in my own feed. My mother didn't see it. Nobody saw the thing, and it's called shadow banning, and that's just the algorithms there. So that's somebody's got to dive into the algorithms, and the algorithms at Twitter are not perfect either.
Oh, no, not at all. No, censorship never really changed at Twitter between one ownership regime to the next. And that's a whole nother subject. But whether Zuckerberg has turned over a new leaf, or even Jeff Bezos, because, there's some kind of talk about him being red pilled as well. And, I think they do recognize that a lot changed in November's election, and they're adapting a little. But I would not trust these guys too much, and I would not think this is going to be some magical new land where we could speak freely without any kind of trouble. And I don't want these places to turn into a sewer, and some of them already are. But on the other hand, we shouldn't have a 30-day suspension for dumb little reasons, sometimes that weren't even political, just because some algorithm doesn't like what we said. And that's a major, major problem that they have not resolved at all.
Yeah, I told the listeners, the viewers, a story a couple of weeks ago. I had a biographer of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I would just simply ask a simple question: how did he end up with his conclusions on this word right here? How did he end up with his conclusions on that word? I didn't say, I didn't give thoughts, theories. I just said, what was his path forward? And I got the warning from the Yuba the two, and they said I can't do that because it's a nasty, 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 and it pissed off someone at the World Health Organization because I mentioned that word there. And I wasn't telling people what to do. I was just asking some questions. How did Kennedy get to the place he's at? And you can't even tell that story on the YouTube.
Well, Google is still really, really, really bad about censorship, and YouTube, which is owned by Google, is really not even a place where you want to try to build a big following, because they will yank you for any reason, and that 3-letter word right there that you posted is enough alone. So, but we have Rumble now. It's incredible that this many years later you still got, that's the 3-letter word you can't say. You're not in the radio anymore, Jimmy. I mean, we could be just cussing and swearing away now. But say that word, the V word, the 3-letter V.
It was the shadow banning on Facebook and Twitter is why in my radio show I started calling that COVID thing. I called it the booger cootie virus. It's like a cootie on a booger. You're trying to shake off your finger. You don't want to.
Yeah.
I called it booger cootie because I was shadow banned. I got locked out of my Twitter account. Like I could not get in. I was shadow banned. I couldn't. I could post happy birthday to Mother Mary and that nobody would see it. Nothing. It was pathetic. And then I created the names. This is why I called Dr. Fauci the little effer. And then I called Dr. Birx. I called her Dr. Scarf and the booger cootie virus. And I found out as long as I, in the conversation, only said the booger cootie virus, the little effer, and Dr. Scarf, the algorithms never caught me and my shadow bans went away.
Well, and that's how they deal with censorship in China, where it's the head of the CCP is renamed Winnie the Pooh until the censors figure that out. Then they have to find 10 new names for him, and it's a game you have to be playing. And I hate to see that happening here, but it has happened here.
Yeah, it has happened.
Bottom line, you end up self-censoring, and that's where they really have you when you're self-censoring, when they really got you.
Yeah, the little effer was my favorite. I like talking about the little effer. That was a good one. All right, we're 7 days out from the inauguration. This time next week, I hope you'll join us for Inauguration Day. You're welcome to fly to Colorado. We're doing a cigar party at the Lafayette, Colorado Casbar Cigar. We're going to do the show live from there. Cigar celebration is going to be fun. A lot of the viewers are going to be there. We hope to have a full house. Feel free, but if not, join us on the live feed like this for Inauguration Day. 7 days and counting, though. We're almost done with the error of Joe Biden. If you were advising Donald Trump in these last 7 days, what did advisor Brian Maloney say?
Well, I would be bracing for the last minute shenanigans that are going to be going on for the last week. And I think everyone is. We know that on their way out the door. I mean, we had Biden impose new sanctions on Russia today, sending oil prices higher. So it's like Biden is trying to crash markets on his way out the door. So it's going to be 7 days of dirty tricks. They've been planning for this for a long time. So I'd have that ready to go. But I'd also have a plan to defend his nominees because the hearings, the confirmation hearings, are already underway this week. And I think that's been a real weakness in the transition team so far is, getting a base of support and to defend your nominees when they're under fire because, the Senate is full of rhinos and far left Democrats and, the House isn't much better and you got to have a fighting force. Otherwise your guys go down like Matt Gaetz did. And that's going to happen if he doesn't build something stronger here.
We shall see. I think that tomorrow's when I think the Pete Hegseth nomination begins tomorrow for Defense Secretary. We'll talk about that and obviously bring some video of that to the program in the next coming days. Brian Maloney, sir, it's a pleasure. I appreciate you, my friend. I took your advice and we did post up on all the pages the topics of conversation for the day. So we'll keep doing that. That way everybody knows what's coming up on the show.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thanks, Brian Maloney. I appreciate you. Brian Maloney, the media equalizer, Red Wave America, all on Facebook, and always good to have him. All right, what else? Let me go through. I think I've covered everything here, producer Chad. Let me make double sure. I went off camera, dear Maloney, because my papers fell to the ground. Everything fell to the ground. All right, I want to remind you one more time, patreon.com. There's a new piece that's launching on Patreon today. It's with Grayton Lay. It's everything. It's probably the best deep dive and yet simplistic deep dive of the current affairs in Canada that you will find. And it's going to be behind the paywall. Go to patreon.com. You're going to see join for free. And you'll get notifications whenever this show drops. So if you miss an episode, Patreon's the easiest place to find it because they'll always be there. But then you'll also get pings and say, hey, there's something else up. And if you're not a paid member, you can look at it and say, maybe I want to become a paid member. And it's $9.95 a month, but you can do a free trial for 7 days. And the Leighton Gray interview that drops here, if it hasn't dropped now, it's going to drop soon. That Leighton Gray interview is fantastic, and it's everything you want to understand about Canada, the prospects of Canada and America. What does the future look like? Has Justin Trudeau destroyed Canada so much that it's gone to the point of no return? Those are all topics of conversation, and that interview, we'll play a snippet of it tomorrow, but we're not going to play a lot of it because it's behind the paywall, and it's just an added benefit for all of our members out there. Leighton Gray, that drops here in just a bit. It's a really good interview, I thought. About 45 minutes, and I think you'll learn more about Canada than you ever knew. And he, even in that interview, I don't want to be the spoiler, but he even talks about the Canadian Mounties. I mentioned the Canadian Mounties, and I did not realize this was the modern-day perception of the Mounties. There's a perception that you might not know that the Mounties have in Canada that is not as idealistic and glorious and storybook as what you and I think about the Canadian Mounted Police. So anyway, you got to go watch that, and that's going to be up at Patreon. It drops today, and you'll get snippets of it. It'll be a wonderful thing. All right, don't forget, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey, 7-day free trial, $9.95. There's a free version as well. Go do that, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. I appreciate you doing that. Also, I would need some more advertisers here. info@jimmylakey.com. There is no obligation. Just send me an email. Send us an email on Producer Chatter. I will send you a little media packet. And whatever state you're in, whatever country you're in, we'd love to help you build your business, build your brand, as you also can help us build this thing. It's called the Founding Fathers Package, and it's a great way to get it on the ground floor of what we're doing here with the Lakey Unleashed podcast. So I appreciate you getting in on the ground floor, not just as a viewer. If you're just a viewer, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. If you're an advertiser or just somebody that really wants to help us get off the ground, get a media kit, and we can help you make sense of it. There's some very inexpensive options on there, and there's a little bit more pricey options, but you can choose, and it doesn't cost a lot to help support us. We appreciate you doing that. It's info@jimmylakey.com. All right, one more quick thing. If sponsor of the studio right now is my charity organization, Rivers Promise. We want that to change. We'll promote the charity here because that's my life's work and my heart's work. But if you haven't helped us get off to the year with a great start, we're a little behind in our January budget. I could use your help out there. It's Jimmy. Go to riverspromise.org, and you can make a donation and help us kind of get right. We're about halfway through the month of January, and we're trending behind right now, which is not unusual because we do really well in December, but a lot of that money is spent in December for Christmas and and things like that. So for the Christmas gift for the kids. So anyway, if you can help us out, we appreciate you. Riverspromise.org. We're trending behind here in the month of January. All right. Let me read a couple more comments here. If you're out there, we always love to hear your comments. I see that Jeff said maybe those Russian icebreakers should be blamed for the polar ice cap shrinkage. I did that one already. I thought I didn't, but I did. Let's see. We got another couple more. Have I missed any more? Which definition of men is Zuckerberg going to use while enforcing the tampon removal? I don't know. I can't answer that. Is Zuck a changed man? Zuck has changed. He had to change his diapers after the November election and has promised to change his ways like a toddler that was caught. I understand. There's a lot of angst about Zuckerberg, and I don't blame any of us for having that. But I do believe he can change. I think let's see how long-term this change happens. And I think it was interesting when Lance Wallnau pointed out that he was really looking at Trump with adoration, almost like Jill Biden was looking at him at the Notre Dame. What Dudley Do-Right is not as clean-cut as he was portrayed. What's happening to this world? Dudley Do-Right. Is he talking about Gavin Newsom? I think he's talking about Gavin Newsom. Dudley Do-Right. Is that his nickname? I call him Governor Greasehead. Governor Greasepit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Thanks again for helping us grow this. I appreciate you. And don't forget, Zuck is another split-tongued demon like the rest of his lies, in my opinion. Carmela is not having any of that Zuckerberg apology. We can pray that Zuckerberg really is changed. I think that's a good idea. Pray for Zuckerberg. And hey, we're 7 days out from the new administration, 7 days out from a new day in America. And I hope, my goodness, pray for our government, pray for our president, incoming president, pray for his safety, because there's a hell of a lot of whack jobs that would like to do nasty things to him and his administration. So if you're a praying person, I would recommend a few prayers for the DJT, his entire family, and the incoming administration. All right, Casbar Cigar, 1 week from today, we're going to be there in Lafayette, Colorado. Get your plane ticket, get your car fueled up. The doors will open just before 8 o'clock. We'll do a live broadcast of this show from the Casbar, a couple of hours live. We're going to go longer next Monday, but you don't want to miss it. It's live. Celebrate with a cigar with us, the incoming inauguration of Donald J. Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. As they say in Hollywood, it's a wrap. It's been a pleasure, my friend. It really has. A lot of good information. I am Jimmy Lakey. A couple of websites to remember. One of those is patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. Another one of those is riverspromise.org for the charity work. We're a little behind in the January fundraising, so help us out if you could. I would appreciate it. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. We'll be back tomorrow. Good Lord willing, the creeks no rise. And we used to say management lets us back in the building, but I've been unleashed from the bonds of corporate radio, and I make up the rules around here. There's a new sheriff in town, and I'm him. I'm Jimmy Lakey. God bless you. God bless America. Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out. I'm always shocked at how many of you stick around after class is dismissed. I don't think we used that meme, did we? Oh, I'm sorry, Chad. We didn't get to that one. It was on my list. We'll do that tomorrow. Climate change. They didn't fill the reservoirs because of climate change. Everybody go. Go to work. We got work to do. God bless you. I miss you. The numbers keep growing up. They're supposed to be going down. You're supposed to run along. Nothing to see here. Nothing. I just now learned who Dudley Do-Right was. Dudley was the do-gooder of the Mountie. It's a cartoon. Jim, you're older than me, I guess. No, I do now remember Dudley Do-Right. Yeah, you're right. He wasn't as nice as, Watch The Late and Great, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. It drops today, and he'll tell you about the Canadian Mounties. All right, we're really out of here. Go.